Welcome to a brand new episode of the Five Heart Podcast, brought to you by CornNation.com, part of the SBNation Podcast Network. I'm your host. My name is Greg Mahachko, joined by the whole squad. We have with us this week our founder and fearless leader at CornNation.com, Mr. John Dam Johnston. Say hello to the nice people, John.
Hi, nice people. And the rest of you fuckers, too.
Fair enough. I mean, I wasn't including the rest of them, but just the nice people. And of course, Todd Wolverton with us, as always. Todd, great seeing you, sir. How have you been?
Well, I've been great, Greg. You know what? Happy Small Business Week.
Amen.
Yeah, it's Small Business Week.
May I?
Go ahead. Yeah, you may.
I want to throw one more on that. It is no secret that I'm a nerd, right? From comic books to Star Wars and all that good stuff. I've probably documented. I have a Green Lantern tattoo on my arm here. This Saturday, May 7th, is Free Comic Book Day at any brick and mortar comic book store across the country. Probably, you can go and get free comic books from all the big publishers, Marvel, DC, and the rest. And I encourage you to do it. And while you're, and I'm not talking, comics are for kids. Yeah, but they're for all ages. Comics have evolved and grown and matured. So as society has as well. So I encourage you, to Todd's point about small businesses, comic book stores are, in my experience, the only individually curated store that you can go to. It used to be like Blockbuster or a movie rental place. People that see you regularly, and you can go in and be like, Jim, what's new? What you got? And somebody there, Jim, maybe if there's a Jim, would be able to say, hey man, we just got this one in. I think you're really gonna like it. Video rental stores aren't around anymore. If you still have a video rental store in your community, I hope that you support it. But comic book shops, and I know they're not in a lot of the smaller communities, but comic book shops are that new curated experience. I can go to mine, Twilight Comics, Swansea, Illinois, and I can say, surprise me. Give me something you think I'll like. And they've never disappointed me. So before we get all into the Husker athletics, and there's a lot to talk about, I want to jump on the Todd Wolverton Support Small Business Week bandwagon and say, free comics, and then while you're there, give them a few bucks and pick something out, something for you, something for your kids. Look, if you like the Marvel movies, if you like the Batman movies, or if what Batman's a different subject, but if you like those comic book movies, they start in comic books. So I implore you to go check out your local comic book shop, your brick and mortars, as I like to call them, and support them because they need your help too.
Wow.
That's really cool. I've got a whole bunch of comic books that I'm going to try to sell. I've worked my way through all of them, and I need to let them go though, Greg. Need to let them go.
You talk to me about it, Shoots. We'll work a deal.
I will. Hey, also, John.
Right. Happy
Teacher Appreciation Week.
Oh, it is. It is. My wife is getting presents or something, and people have bought her lunch. And
well, how are you doing, John?
God, that was too joyful. I do have an announcement, just so you know. I might be leaving the podcast. I have decided to put my name into the SBNation Podcast transfer portal. I mean, I don't have anything against you guys, but I'm trying to work a deal with Blue Chew. And it really depends on which SB Nation team picks me up to talk about Blue Chew more and gives me the most money, because that's really what I'm out for. And more Blue Chew, obviously. Sometimes you just want to walk around that way.
Let me ask you this, John. Serious question. Would you rather have a fistful of Blue Chew or a fistful of cash? Now, remember, you're potential sponsoring. If you play it right, you could.
I was thinking that, hopefully Purdue would pick me up, because now that I've spent these last 4 years under Scott Frost, I really understand what it's like to be a Purdue fan with all the pain they've gone through in their lifetime.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe Iowa, I could go to the Iowa people and say, listen, I know what it's like to be in denial about your coach.
What about
I'd fit right in. I'd probably throw up in my mouth a lot more, but whatever. If anything for a buck.
Let me ask you this. What about Burnt Orange Nation? Because they were big losers last weekend. First of all, no draft picks for the second time in their program's history. And on top of that, Ochaun Mathis is
Apparently, they're putting together a $3 million Neal deal to get some guy out of Pittsburgh. Is it Pitt?
Oh, Southern Cal's doing that, aren't they?
Well, everybody's doing it.
What?
That's why I want to do it.
The guy from Pittsburgh.
Well,
Joe the plumber from Pittsburgh. He's a defensive end this week.
John,
what
if you're we all know the rules of the transfer portal. You enter the transfer portal, you're not officially gone. So while you're shopping offers, I'm going to put together quite the compensation package for you. And speaking of packages, with all the Blue Chew we're going to send John, he's going to be able to lift his wife right to the moon.
Okay.
And you won't have to clutch your chest. You won't have to clutch your chest like Todd with the Blue Chew. Blue Chew won't give you heart problems. I'm pretty sure. I've never actually taken it, but I'm pretty sure. Watch it. Make sure you read all the fine print and the side effects. But with enough Blue Chew, John, your lady too can be lifted off her feet.
Well, I do know that you can't take that stuff at the same time you're taking nitro, or it'll kill you.
Did you find that one out from a buddy of yours who had a bad night?
No, I found that out because the pharmacist was insisting on talking to me.
Wait. Time out. I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah.
The pharmacist who you see occasionally, but probably not like on a first name basis with.
I don't need her anymore because,
okay.
I understand all the drugs I take now.
Of course.
And I don't take nitro. I don't have any nitro anymore. But
I'm just trying to figure out how you and the pharmacist got talking about getting your dick hard.
Because this is nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just how things work when you get older and part of your heart dies.
Okay.
It's part of that system that keeps the blood going, and we need blood to do things.
We do. We need blood
so
pumping.
She's basically like, you do not take this at the same time as this, or you will die. Oh, yeah. But it'd be exciting. Not as exciting as fighting a bear blowing up in an explosion. But
what as the old saying goes, what a way to go.
But here's the thing with it. I'd just be dead. I wouldn't have to explain it to anybody. My wife would have to explain it to somebody. She probably wouldn't really like that way of dying. She'd be like, no, he's fucking big. In fact, she'd probably run out of the house and blow the motherfucker up.
To that point.
Every week we see how far we can get off the rails even further, don't we?
To that point,
yeah.
Would it be a similar? Oftentimes, you see like a picture of a giant spider or a nest of spiders or a snake or something in somebody's house. Like, well, time to move or burn the house or something like that. Are you saying that you having a mid-coitus side effect and that cost you dearly? Your wife would just, I don't know what happened, officer. There was a gas leak. He had disappeared downstairs in his podcast room for a while. I heard something about a bottle of pills, and I don't know what happened. The house just exploded.
You know how easy it is when you take a bunch of pills it is to mix them all up?
No, I'm not 100.
Ow.
All right.
I'm down to 3 today. I'm down to 3 now.
That's awesome.
I never really took that many. I took like 6 or 7, maybe at the height of my pill taking for the heart attack, brain injury thing. But it's real easy to, get one pill in there with the other pills and you mix them up. And that's why you kept the nitro in a special place in a bottle and way away from everything else.
Well, regardless, John, as I think it goes without saying, we are just thrilled that you're here. We love the fact that you took on a severe heart attack, the Widowmaker, and said, "Not today. I'm not leaving my wife. There's more torment to provide." And we're here. We're glad that you're with us this week. We know that you were a little under the weather last week, so Todd and I had to do the best we could. And boy, we sure did, didn't we, Todd?
Well,
it was so bad. We were following the draft, and let's talk about that draft because the Huskers we sent hundreds percentage more players through the draft this year than Texas, which is great. But the first one, I don't think it was a surprise to many. It was Cam Jurgens, Philadelphia. And I think a lot of them, a lot of those city folk, not sure what to make of Cam Jurgens, but I think they're all kind of on board.
That just made me sad.
That he went to Philly?
Yeah.
Well, they all can't go to Green Bay.
Samari Torre did. Yeah.
He'll be
I don't know how to feel about Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Isn't that the city that booed Santa Claus?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't. But how should I feel about the Philadelphia Eagles? Because I like Cam Jurgens.
I'll tell you how you should feel. They're not the Cowboys.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay. I don't hate it as much as I did 3 minutes ago.
And they're not the Washington Guardians?
Commanders.
No, Commanders. Guardians
apparently,
are
according
Cleveland.
to my rotten son,
Guardians. Yeah.
They now call themselves the Commies.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
That's just bizarre. But,
Todd's changing NFL allegiance when he heard that.
Yeah, I'll have to be a fan. Actually, my cousins are out there, and they've been Washington fans for years and years and years and years, and they are not on the Commanders bandwagon. They were very much on they're the Redskins. They'll always be the Redskins. Don't mess with the Redskins. That was their position on things.
And look, I'm not here to, agree or disagree with that. That's not my place. I'm a white man from Illinois, so I don't get to have opinions on a lot of things. I just feel like aesthetically speaking, they could have done something better than the Commanders. I'm trying to think of the Washington team for. I think Washington had a team in the XFL that relaunched a couple of years back. But I mean, there were, I don't know, they could have done so much better. And you could have tapped into some other rich heritage in history. I think the Red Tails was one.
Red Tails is one I liked. I did.
That was a good one. That was a really good one. And so they could have done better. Washington, you let me down, but it wouldn't be the first time I've been let down by Washington. You know what I mean?
Well, John was, because when Washington crossed the Delaware, he told John, "You stay over here. We don't want your ass on the other side."
Okay.
John said, "You mean over here where it's snowing and cold and I have my feet wrapped in rags and I got nothing to eat?" And George says, "Well, he ain't going to help us on the other side."
He was too young.
Yeah.
Okay. What was going on with the draft? What the hell?
So as we mentioned, a lot of Huskers were drafted, and so we mentioned Cam Jurgens, and just a few picks later, another Cam went. Cam Taylor-Britt, the 60th pick to the defending AFC champions, believe it or not, the Cincinnati Bengals. And kind of the video that a lot of Husker fans gravitated towards was Zach Taylor calling and speaking with Cam and informing him he was going to be the pick. And I think the Bengals caption, or maybe the Huskers caption, I can't remember which, says something like one Husker to another, or something like that. So very cool. I think. Well, let's go through this real quick. As we mentioned, Samari Toure went in the 7th round. I feel like I'm missing some, but because there were other
JoJo
Huskers.
didn't get drafted.
No,
he did not.
The only 3 that got drafted.
Okay, well then I don't feel as bad. I think that's the biggest surprise, honestly, is that JoJo did not get picked. Austin Allen, I feel like he got overlooked. I know that there's some, questions, but I like his size. I like his hands, and he was a good route runner. Damian Daniels kind of shocked me as well, but I think at that point, if didn't have enough cachet, wasn't a big enough name to perhaps warrant, draft in a, gosh, we saw, and Todd and I were tracking this last week, the number of defensive linemen and certainly offensive linemen that were taken early. They felt like linemen this draft were early and often. So let's run down here. JoJo Domann ended up signing with the Indianapolis Colts. Austin Allen with the New York Giants. Daniels to Houston. He'll be a Texan. And Deontay Williams going to the Northwest, poor guy, signing with Seattle. Now, let me throw an asterisk there. Poor guy. I think he's going to do, very well. And any opportunity is a good opportunity. I just have never been a Seahawks fan. Ben Stilley going to Miami. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, those were the only ones.
Yeah, Greg, you did mention Samori Toure, and you didn't say he is going to be a Green Bay Packer, which, I think John,
it was mentioned earlier. I didn't want to rehash and be too repetitive.
Then I missed it. And, so he gets to catch balls from Aaron Rodgers.
300 or 400. Up until he gets into the playoffs, and then it'll be one.
But will they elect to run the ball or throw the ball when the game is on the line at their opponent's one? And a lot of things.
His passer rating.
No. Let's just focus on the Huskers. We're going to get lit up in the YouTube comments for going off on tangents as it is. Let's just keep it Husker focused here. Regardless, as always, I'm exceptionally proud, in the only way a fan can be. We don't really have any agency or ownership of it. Very proud of all the Huskers. And the ones that end up at Cincinnati, can't root for you. Sorry. Because you're in the AFC North with my beloved Steelers. So I hope you have, I hope you get a delicious free agent offer some other team on the West Coast in 4 years.
One thing I noticed about the NFL draft was just as important as Nebraska players being selected was the lack of highlights of other players against Nebraska. I only saw one by any player got drafted by anybody else where they showed Nebraska as the team being destroyed. And I think that's something I'm saying.
That's progress.
Was it the return man from Michigan State?
No, I can't remember what it was, but I thought, wow. They showed like
realistically, I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of the Ohio State receivers. Like Olave or something.
Those guys went high, but you saw their highlights were against like Penn State and Maryland, and it was no Nebraska for either of those guys. And I thought, wow, all right, yeah, it's because we played you decently on defense, motherfuckers.
And that's in when you go 3-9, and we beat this today. It became a joke. It's still a joke in baseball season, when you lose 1-0 to Iowa, we're still losing by one score. I can't stress enough, and I'm sure folks are tired of hearing about it. I hope not, but we were in a lot of ball games. We had the opportunity to win a lot of ball games last year. Maybe this is, glass half full, rose-colored glasses, et cetera, et cetera. But I felt then, and I feel even better now that things are looking up and headed in the right direction. And to, I guess, solidify that opinion, we have to go back a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to play the audio because it's going to take too long to find. But Todd, you were awful sour on it was, I think, in our Casey Rogers episode, and all the the departures from the defensive line. And you said, and Todd, I don't say that to throw you under the bus at all. But the concern was defensive line. Well, during the draft and in the days since the draft, Husker Blackshirt defensive line got a little bit of a boost. Ochaun Mathis, we learned on Saturday, was the TCU standout 4-star rush end, was choosing Nebraska over Texas. And then earlier this week, it was revealed by the player himself that Devin Drew, defensive lineman from Texas Tech, was choosing Nebraska over other options. And there's still, there's Alabama players and Florida players. I mean, I feel like this defensive unit, this coaching staff's not done. Todd, let me get your, I don't want to use the word opinion again, but let me see where you're at on the additions to the defensive line, and if you feel it's an upgrade from a Damian Daniels, a Casey Rogers, et cetera.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I don't remember exactly what I said, a couple of weeks ago, though I did, I was critical of it and I was very concerned. And I think I probably said somewhere along the line, they're going to have to pay a lot of attention in this portal and pull some people out of there. And what I've seen and what I've read from the pundits is, when the dust all clears, they believe that we're probably in a better position than we were when we had, Fladarius Payne, and when we had Casey Rogers, and when we had, Jordan Riley, that with these new players, it's an upgrade, for each one of them. And, we'll see, but certainly, Casey Rogers, am I saying that? It was Casey. Yeah, right.
Rogers was the one that we talked about.
Yeah,
he just announced.
The one that, hey, look at me. But he had a hard time staying healthy, and so the one thing they say about Devin Drew is that the guy plays a lot of snaps. He's not. He's a guy that is going to take up blockers. He's a guy that's going to allow our linebackers to work, and he's just kind of a lunch bucket kind of a defensive lineman. And then if you believe everything about Ochaun Mathis that's been said, he'll be a terror out there. And so I think that the defensive line's in good shape now. And if they pull in one of the, either the guy from Alabama, or if they pull the guy in from Florida, which, they still need that big old boy that they can put down in the 2 technique and take up some space. I think they'll be in real good shape. So kudos to the coaching staff. And, the one thing that we can say that about Nebraska is they're winning the portal. They're doing incredibly well with the portal, and kudos to them. I don't know that that's the way to build long-term success, but Mel Tucker showed last year that it's a way if you get the right players and you put them in the right spots and they bring the right skill sets, it's a way to turn things around real quick. And that's what Scott Frost has to do. He has to win this year. He can't, we're not building for the future right now. That's not the top priority. The priority is to win now.
The transfer portal is, and I think always has been, even in its earliest stages, or maybe not as early, definitely now. Let me back up. In its earliest stages, it was, well, I'm a grad senior, and I'm just not getting the playing time that I want here at Power 5 school, so I'll go to Group of 5 school and get the playing time that I want, and or I've had a good career at Group of 5 school, graduate senior, going to move up, to a mid-level Power 5 program, type of thing. Now, I think the transfer portal, to your point, Todd, is much more get the guys the immediate needs. It's there to bridge the gap, right? And the hope is that you have the Nash Hutmakers, underneath who are going to be playing alongside, learning, growing, developing, and then taking that role, because I believe Devin Drew's only going to be around for a season,
actually a semester.
Yeah. So I guess they better hope that he gets a, whatever bowl game they get to, it happens before Christmas break.
Yep.
But when we talk about potential, and we got two guys who are coming from, two transfer portal signees on the defensive line who are coming from the Big 12, which I don't say notoriously, but the joke has been for years now, the Big 12, they don't play defense, right. So you hope that and I think statistics are proving, at least for these two guys, proving otherwise. But, Mathis, we know is a hoss. And Devin Drew will continue to learn more about, as you said, he just gets in there and plays snaps and is, everything that you want. I forgot where I was going with that. I'm just so thrilled, Todd, that you're, saying positive things about the coaching staff finally coming around.
Well, yeah. Most of, just to clarify, the 98% of my criticism of the coaching staff has been directed towards one coach. And but Greg, I do actually have something really good to say about that one coach, but bring that up a little bit later. Let's talk more about some of the other things you want to talk about. And then I'll say some nice things about the head coach.
You know what? I'm not going to wait. I want to hear what you have to say nice now, and then we'll move on.
Well, for all the criticism that I've levied at him and other people have too, it's not only is it Small Business Week, not only is it Teacher Appreciation Week, it is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's Scott Frost Appreciation Week.
No.
Every day is Scott Frost Day.
Yeah.
But I was driving out to Kearney this week and listening to Sports Nightly. And I try to catch that, when I'm on the road at night, because I like listening to those guys. And they a lot of times have some of those more human interest kinds of stories. Well, anyway, what captured me, and this is where, I'm headed, was they were talking about, college athletes and mental health. And, the University of Nebraska always seems to be out front on a lot of things that are for the athletes. I mean, going way, way back to strength and conditioning programs, academic supports, et cetera, et cetera.
Nutrition programs, everything. And, University of Nebraska has been out front also when it comes to, they had Dr. Stark, who was a team, sports psychologist. And quite a few years ago in the Osborne era, and that's only grown. And so, the mental health services that are being offered and provided to Nebraska athletes is just incredible. And they had an interview with Omar Manning. And, to anybody who follows Nebraska football, when Omar Manning, we heard all these things, the number one wide receiver come out of junior college, all this talent, all this skill. And then he wasn't playing. I mean, he wasn't, and really there was no explanation. And then eventually it started coming out a little bit. And, Scott Frost, I felt, handled things very, very well, because Scott Frost knew what was going on. He's the head coach. He knew that Omar Manning was having some of these mental health struggles. And Omar Manning, in his interview, says, I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't come to Nebraska and had the supports that I've had, with the help that's been provided to me. And I think Scott Frost, he could have cast aside Omar Manning, and he protected Omar's privacy early on, and he looked at it as an injury. And when you really think about it, it is an injury. And it should be considered to a degree an injury. And so, hats off to Scott Frost, because here you've got this guy that, because he wasn't producing, because he wasn't getting out there on the field,
he didn't just cast him off. He just didn't say, well, why don't you just step away? We need your scholarship. Nor did he force him into a situation that he couldn't handle. And I guess kind of where I'm going with this, Greg, is, that takes a lot from a coach, because, this is a new day and age. And I don't think all coaches, even today, would have handled that situation the same. Now, what I'm really interested in is, I think probably once a week for the rest of the month of May, they have interviews with Nebraska athletes on Sports Nightly who are experiencing mental health issues. And I was surprised who two of the next three, they're one of the people they've interviewed, and I wish I could remember her name, but she's a pole vaulter on the track and field team who's had incredible battles with anorexia. And but then the other two that they have interviewed that they'll play, Kinsey Knuckles, who's that marvelous defender on the volleyball team, and Bryce Matthews on the baseball team. And because Omar Manning came out, that's what led Bryce to be willing to talk about, the struggles that he's had. And, I sit here and I think about the loudmouth, and I can't plead total innocence here. I've been totally frustrated by Bryce Matthews' play this year. The errors that he's made out in the field, the fact that he's watched strike three so many times this year, it's been very, very frustrating. But, I haven't been that guy that sits three rows behind me and just yells incredibly harsh things at Bryce Matthews when he strikes out and that kind of thing. And it could be.
I that's the part when you said that Bryce Matthews was going to do one of the interviews. The heckling in college baseball can sometimes just be unbelievably nasty. And I don't mean profane, but it can be really right to your heart if you're at the plate. And it's a hard sport, baseball. I never watched the major leagues, but I mean, when you're standing up there, a pitcher is by himself, the batter's by himself, and it's really up to them, and everybody's watching the two of them. You know what I mean? So to have the mental strength to do all that stuff and still compete is just pretty amazing.
Well, yeah. And then throw on top of it these other issues that he has. And here's the big thing. And this is, I guess, what's kind of changing my perspective. And I'll finish this up here just in a minute. But since March of 2022, there have been 5 Division I athletes that have committed suicide.
Yeah.
A male lacrosse player from Binghamton. His name was Robert Martin. Track and field athlete from Northern Michigan by the name of Jaden Hill. A cross country and track runner from Wisconsin. An amazing all Big Ten cross country runner from Wisconsin by the name of Sarah Schultz. Katie Meyer, a goalie for Stanford, a goalkeeper.
Right.
Who won the national championship in 2019 for Stanford because she stopped PKs to decide the game. And most recently, Lauren Burnett, the catcher from James Madison University, who was on that Cinderella softball team that made the College World Series last year. And so I think about Scott Frost, and I think about head coaches at any level. We didn't worry when I was a coach about mental health and mental illness with our athletes. And I think about how this is a changing dynamic because James Madison University, College World Series participants last year, they canceled their season after her death. And so there are 20-some girls, women, that aren't finishing a softball season. And it's not that I'm saying poor them. It's just a reality of the times that we deal with. So Scott Frost, I'm glad you're taking care of Omar Manning and the other athletes that are under your charge.
It's really important this month and every month to work to destigmatize, mental health. issues and barriers. Todd, to your point, and we're going to take a timeout after this. We'll have the phone number in our story as well. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255, 24 hours a day, English and Spanish. Your life matters. And as a friend of someone who's not with us anymore because of suicide, and I'm not the only one, and I'm not special in that regard. There's not a day that goes by, that we don't think of him. We named one of our twins after Matt. So if you're feeling overwhelming senses of depression, anxiety, etc., go talk to somebody. Start just by opening up to a close friend or family member, and then they can help get you pointed in the right direction for the right counseling and things like that. But don't. I think I'm minimizing it with this statement, but this is kind of the line that I heard growing up. Don't. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and I know mental health is much more in depth than quote unquote temporary problem. So I'm not trying to minimize it, but again, that phone number 800-273-8255. And with that, we'll take a timeout and then we'll come back for Todd to give him an opportunity to yell at Scott Frost. So that's coming up next. Welcome back to the 5 Heart Podcast. So we just went to a break on a very serious topic, one of the more serious topics we've ever addressed here on the 5 Heart Podcast. But let's get back into doing what Todd loves to do the most, yelling at HCSF. And this time around, we've got NCAA violations. Yeah.
They don't matter.
And John's right. In the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter. But, one of our writers at Coronation, Nate McHugh, he comes up with some of the best lines sometimes. And I don't think this is necessary. I don't think he owns this one. But if you're going to cheat, you could at least win,
Yeah.
And
That's fair.
But that being said, I'm not going to dwell on and on it, but one of my biggest criticisms of Scott Frost has been he doesn't lead and he doesn't manage. And you've got to manage a program. And the fact that he had a consultant that was blatantly violating the rules, and if they want to say, well, he was doing it down at Auburn, or these analysts do it at other places, and whatever, that's bullshit. In
the internet world, Todd. Comments sections specifically, they call that whataboutism, and whataboutism is frowned upon.
Okay.
I learned that recently on the internet.
Well,
Did you?
But I'll say what John's, so he's got his, year probation and the $10,000 fine and that kind of stuff. I'm more concerned about the damn agents and the basketball players at Kansas and the basketball players at Creighton with all the shoe contracts, and nothing's being, done at all with them. And it seems like, oh, well, now we got NIL, so that really doesn't look that bad. In the, you can't go backwards. But
don't you find it bizarre? Scott Frost now is the only Nebraska head coach with an NCAA violation
in any sport.
Yeah, right? Am I right?
I don't know. I've
think about it. There's only two. Remember, I think it happened back when we were in school in the 80s. There was a kerfuffle with the NCAA where football players were selling their tickets. They were given tickets that they could give away to like family and girlfriends and stuff like that. And some of them were selling their tickets.
Well, there was a textbook thing too.
Right. We got in trouble because we were giving away the textbooks for a course, and the only ones we were supposed to give away were the required textbooks. So we were actually giving too much education to our student athletes, and the NCAA did not like that.
What year was that?
Other than that, is there any sport?
I can't think of any.
So you literally have Scott Frost now, the only coach with an NCAA violation at a time in which the NCAA is more worthless than it's ever been. They have no teeth. They are completely useless. And he ends up being the only guy that does this. That's the part that astonishes me, I guess. And it's like he's touching all of the bases and there's more than three.
and like Nate said, look, let's back up a little bit here. If you're not aware of the situation, the Husker program admitted that misused Jonathan Rutledge, that the program misused Jonathan Rutledge while he was a special teams analyst in 2020. Since he was an analyst and not an official coaching staff member, he should not have been providing technical or tactical instruction to the players during practices or film sessions, nor should he have been doing so during games. So they misused. Basically, what it sounds like to me is that they mislabeled the coach, and at a time when I think we needed a special teams coach, find somebody else that you can make an analyst somewhere and get them off the sideline. Because let's face it, the last few years, it's not like we've had a good special teams, unit. So,
well,
God bless. Yeah.
It's just about any time, quite honestly, in Scott Frost's defense, we should be celebrating the success that he and his staff have had with this portal. That's what we should be focused on. But then once again, shoot yourself in the foot, and so I don't know. I don't.
Todd, the Scott Frost apologist. What the hell? There's your headline for the program.
Todd loves Scott Frost.
No. We're not going to go that
far. And you should too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
What else happened this week?
What else did happen this week? I'm so glad you asked. Stuff. Things and stuff happened this week. That's about all I know.
Well,
there was an incident involving cow photos.
We're
okay, what else happened in we shouldn't go there. What else happened? There was one other thing. Come on, what the hell else happened? There's Scott Frost.
Well, Nebraska didn't get a basketball player they wanted.
Oh, that's right. He went to Creighton, that son of a bitch.
See, I don't even know who the guy is. I don't pay attention.
Yeah, fuck him. He doesn't even have a name anymore.
What John is saying is that he's dead to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He might as well have gone to play for Dallas or something.
I mean, he's playing. He's playing for the Dallas Cowboys of NCAA basketball.
I think that the biggest news of everything is beyond Nebraska is all the nil stuff that's going on, the tampering, the rumors of money being thrown at players. Yeah. I saw a tweet today where some guy said that boosters are giving money to players and recruits that this coach doesn't even want in his program.
I don't know. Were you guys? Did either of you guys step onto Twitter today?
I went on for a little bit.
So everybody knows that Twitter is not much more than a haven for evil. And to prove that point, I have to share with you. I apologize. I wasn't prepared. So at CFB Home, which is College Football Home for all things college football around the clock for fifth quarter.net. Their cover photo is a picture of the Grambling Tigers football stadium. And they tweeted out something ridiculous. Question of the day: who is the best player to not win a Heisman? And some of the pictures that they used as offerings were Christian McCaffrey, Adrian Peterson, Saquon Barkley. I can't tell you how quickly Nebraska fans jumped on this in the most glorious of manners with one of two, Tommie Frazier or
Ndamukong Suh.
Ndamukong Suh. Can I share with you this gets brought up quite a bit. I don't know if we've ever done an in-depth look at the 2009 defensive line statistics. Alabama was the national championship team that year, and they had 98 the defensive line had 98 tackles, 23 and a half tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, 20 quarterback hurries, 5 pass breakups, no interceptions, no forced or 1 forced fumble, 3 block kicks. The runner-up was Texas with 112 tackles, 22 for loss, 14 sacks, 48 quarterback hurries, 5 pass breakups, no interceptions, 1 forced fumble, no blocked kicks. Florida, the defending champs from a year prior, had 116 tackles, 25 and a half for a loss, 15 and a half sacks, 10 quarterback hurries, 7 pass breakups, no interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, no block kicks. Ndamukong Suh by himself had 82 tackles, 23 tackles for a loss, 12 sacks, 24 quarterback hurries, 10 pass breakups, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 3 blocked kicks. Did not win the Heisman.
It's you know what, the Heisman is a worthless award unless it's your guy that's up for it. It's the problem the Heisman has is all of the people who won the Heisman get to vote for the next Heisman guy. And none of them motherfuckers are ever going to vote for a defensive player. They're just not. They're going to go, it's the greatest trophy in America. It's for the best player offense. You know what I mean? That's it. It's just.
Can I ask a question?
Give me an
guys?
Outland.
Can I ask it? This is a serious. I apologize. I feel like I got something in my eye. But can I ask a serious question? Thank you. God, that's something my mother would say. So congratulations. What upsets you more? And I'm asking you guys because of your age and wisdom, mostly age. What upsets you more, that Ndamukong Suh did not win the Heisman or that Tommie Frazier did not win the Heisman?
Well, what I was going to say just a minute ago, when you say something like that, how does anybody ever question that Ndamukong Suh wasn't the most dominant defensive lineman, defensive player of all time? I mean, you just simply put that stat line up, and there is not another defender that produced at that level. No way, no how. Now, back to what you were saying, okay, Tommie Frazier and Ndamukong Suh, and it's probably because of my age and my era, but Tommie Frazier, because Tommie Frazier won a national championship, and he carried. It's hard to say that Ndamukong Suh didn't carry the Nebraska defense on his back, but Tommie Frazier carried that offense on his back in that game against Florida, and
I thought he carried Florida on his back.
He carried Florida on his back. I mean, people, everybody wants, we continue, 50 years later, we're still replaying Lyle Bremser's,
man, woman, child, got him jumping in the aisles. Yeah.
Why don't we replay the call of Tommie Frazier's run where he ran through 47, Florida players? I mean, they were sending people off the bench to try to tackle the son of a bitch.
And to that, members of the Florida, this is what people don't realize this. And this is true. I encourage everybody to go to YouTube and look it up. But members of the Florida Gator marching band were running onto the field to try to stop him. And you couldn't see them. They were wearing camouflage. But that's the fact, Jack.
What was it? Tommie Frazier played in 3 national title games and was the MVP of 2. Is that right?
Well, he was the MVP. John, I don't remember those things.
I think that's correct. But I'd still say it's Suh, just because he won the Outland that year. What? Come on, the Remington's from the interior. Lombardi. There you go. He won that. I mean, the guy was force. He was a generational player, and you normally would give those. The only reason he didn't win it is because he was defense. That's it. That's it. It's because it's not to the best player. It's to the best offensive player that's a quarterback or wide receiver or running back. And that's it.
I want to kind of address that one more to one of the. Do you think if Nebraska wins the Big 12 championship, that catapults him above, I believe it was Mark Ingram from Alabama that won it that year? But do you think that catapults it? Suh, when Suh came in second, I believe in Heisman voting at 2009. Do you think that if
I struck all those fake people from my memory permit forever?
I like how you said you struck that like you had control of it.
I do. I struck them from my memory. No idea who the fakers are.
But do you think that if Nebraska beats Texas in the Big 12 championship, and they are, they have that, again, I'm gonna use the word cachet. They have that the trophy that elevates Suh to a little level that gets him a little higher than, again, I think Ingram.
I don't think so, because
no,
the voting would have been done before the national championship game, because if Nebraska would have beat Texas, would they have not played in the national championship game? No, they would have played in the conference championship game first.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you say the voting takes place before conference
Wouldn't
championship
matter.
weekend? I can't remember.
Defensive player. It's a defensive player, defensive player that in the Big 12 championship threw Colt McCoy around like a rag doll. And all these guys who vote for the Heisman that are quarterbacks would look at that and go, I don't want that guy anywhere fucking near me at the Heisman house ever.
Those guys would be scared that they wouldn't visit the Heisman house. If Ndamukong Suh would have won the Heisman, there's no way all those guys would come back to the Heisman house.
They would have given him a key and changed the locks. That's what they would have done.
Well, yeah.
So I want to talk about Tommie Frazier.
Bo Jackson might have come to the Heisman house with him there.
Yeah, because Bo knows. How is it that Nebraska wins 3 national championships in 4 years and doesn't get a Heisman winner out of that? Is it because, as we mentioned, I think Tommie Frazier should have won it over Eddie George. But again, you have the brand of the Ohio State University. Ooh, those buck nuts.
I think Tommie Frazier didn't win it because people looked at him and said he's a system quarterback, just like they do passers from Texas Tech or something like that. You have a lot of these guys. First of all, there's a bias in not just the player, the Heisman winners voting themselves, a bias toward the offense, but there's a bias in the media for these guys. They tend to be more East Coast oriented. Plus, whenever they get into a guy and they want to flatten him and they want to dismiss him and they want to talk down about him, they go, well, he's a system player. They could put anybody else in that system and they would be producing the same numbers. And that's the kind of shit they throw at people when they don't want them winning awards and things like that or getting accolades. So I think that's why ultimately Tommie Frazier didn't win that award.
Fine with that. That's a brilliant answer. And I appreciate you taking the time to extrapolate that and articulate that. Thank you, John.
Uh-huh.
John, have I told you that you're a gosh darn treasure?
You have.
Okay. Well, I mean it.
I'm sorry. I was practicing if I have a bottle of Blue Chew or something. I don't know what they come in. Do they come in bottles or packs? How do they sell that shit?
I don't think it's
Let's
a bottle.
pretend.
Okay.
It's a really big pill.
Good news. It's a suppository. There was something else that I wanted to ask about, but I forgot what it was. So
is it the Bob Devaney question?
It can be. Yes.
I don't know what
Let's go with that. The Bob Devaney question, indeed. John, this is me asking the Bob Devaney question. take it from there, Chief.
Okay. We'll come up with one. We haven't done any tips about dating or marriage for a while.
Well, it's been a while since we got the whole gang together. So, Todd,
it's very quiet.
Todd, let me throw a theoretical situation at you.
Yes, Greg.
Let's say you have to attend a wedding. And it's fine. Do you, how do I want to ask this? Do you get sentimental at weddings, Todd? Does it make you, all right. So I'll phrase the question around this. At a baptism I can't call it my church, but in the Catholic Church, when there's a baptism, everybody's encouraged to kind of renew their baptismal vows. Do you renounce sin and believe that yada, yada. When you go to a wedding and you're there with Mrs. Todd, do you get that sentimentality and, kind of like hold her hand, give her a little squeeze and kind of, oh yeah, honey, we were here 33 years ago. And it sure does feel, I'm glad I'm here. I'd do it all over with you again. Do you get feelings like that, Todd?
The last wedding I went to, I had the waterworks. I couldn't control the waterworks.
Wow.
It was your daughter though, right?
That's my daughter. So
yeah, that doesn't count. But it counts. But
I'm not sure I get sentimental. I think everybody probably thinks about it a little bit. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't think about it, but I don't think every wedding you go to, you think back to that. I'll tell you when I think it probably happens more, for guys than it does for gals is at the reception. And when you see, the bride and the groom out on the dance floor or something like that, I think maybe that's where some of the sentiment comes back. Or when I got, now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I think that people might get sentimental when, the two of them face each other up, in front of the church. And it's kind of one of those things that we use the word it a lot and you can't really define it. But when you see two people that are truly in love, looking into each other's eyes, that's it. And you know it. So I think you have to be a pretty cold person or someone who has suffered a miserable marriage not to be a little bit sentimental at those moments in time.
John,
given that setup, yes, I cry all the time.
John, similar question. When you attend a wedding with Mrs. CN, do you lean over and be like, hey, honey, tonight we're going to reenact our wedding night?
No.
Oh, okay.
The last wedding I went to, I went out and did a YouTube video after the wedding in my car because we lost to fucking Michigan by 1 score. Okay?
The
last wedding I went to.
Greg,
let me tell you what'll help that. Blue Chew.
Greg, let you in on a little secret.
Oh, yes, God.
Sir. Uh-oh.
You should be taking notes.
I should be taking my earbuds out.
on John's wedding night, John and...
You did not enact the ancient rite of prima noctra, I hope.
No. John and Mrs. Coronation, they had a little obstacle to overcome before consummation. And
they didn't have Blue Chew back then.
I forgot about this. You're going to bring this up.
There's a lot to bring up from that. But
oh shit.
Some 5 foot tall female who was a guest of one of John's wedding party. thought it would be real interesting to see if, in fact, she could put a whole 5-pound bag of flour down the vents of John's vehicle.
Okay.
Not just a few tablespoons, but let's see if we can put a full 5-pound bag of flour down the vents of John's car.
Who did the silly string?
Said 5-foot tall female.
Okay, so okay.
Oh, my
That
God.
fucking car spewed flour the rest of its life. It honest to God did. Every winter when you go get in the car, it'd be 20 below. You'd turn the fucking heater on and turn it all the way up. Flour would fly out of the vents while you were going to work.
Oh,
it was
my
one
God.
of the reasons why we got rid of that fucking car. Because barely flour just gets in a car and there ain't no getting it out until it all blows out.
Leaves. It's always there.
So you could go into work looking like you've done a bunch of cocaine or something.
A very serious follow-up to that story. I didn't realize my wife was informing me, from the medical side, that if you work in a bakery, that you can develop respiratory issues from all the flour.
Yeah.
Well, John had a heart attack because of it.
Well, that's the new reason. That's going into a book.
Well, we'll plug your books at the end of the show, John. So, all right. So we've tackled
Grain
the
bins.
marrying.
Grain bin's another issue.
Yes,
Grain bin.
yes, for sure.
Yeah. I only did wheat harvest once in my life and it almost killed me.
All right, let's talk about child rearing.
How long are we going to go? We have a whole off season ahead of us, and we haven't even got to the off season part of off season.
In my defense, I don't know exactly what time we started, so I'm not sure. Have we gone an hour?
No,
I think we've gone.
Close.
All right. We'll save our parenting question for next time. Also, want to remind the folks of the good news, and the good news being that Haas Reuter will be joining us shortly. Probably not in May, maybe the very end of May. I'm sure he'll have some opinions on Ochaun Mathis, Devin Drew, and just all the good things that are happening on the offensive and defensive lines for your Nebraska Cornhuskers. So we'll end it there. We've had this episode was more of an emotional roller coaster than we've had in a while. So
that's probably true. Yeah.
We like to have fun and we like to laugh. There are some serious things that need to be discussed from time to time. So hopefully it didn't bring you down too much. But nothing will brighten your day more than imagining our fearless leader, John Johnston, looking like he just came in out of the snow, starting up his old car, a few weeks after he got married. So take those happy.
I'd forgotten all about that and I'd forgiven all of it, but now I'm suddenly getting,
he's getting all worked up on the insides again.
Required.
So I know it's a few years since John's wedding, your wedding, John, but maybe there's a 5-foot individual who needs a receipt on that, and maybe it's time for a little payback. Yeah. So
John knows where said 5-foot individual resides. So
payback.
Out of curiosity, we're being very vague. Was it your wife, Todd? Or was it like future wife?
Future wife, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay.
I
didn't know. So
with another future wife or current wife or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, you were being very vague at the beginning, so I legit didn't know if it was just some stranger that a groomsman brought. I appreciate that we got to the nitty gritty of it, and now we know. John, I say this with full sincerity. I will help you on the payback mission.
There you go. There you go. At that wedding, and I know we're wrapping up here, but at that wedding, It could have been anybody. I mean, there were people that showed up at that wedding from like Colorado and Iowa. They just knew that Jon and Heidi were getting married, and let's go to the wedding. And it was one of the most incredible weekends I've ever had in my life.
Let's never imagine the fact that Jon would ever invite anyone from Colorado to his wedding. He has better taste.
They just showed up.
You got a pass. You're from Iowa originally, Todd. You get a pass because you're a Husker through and through. But I know better. Jon wouldn't bring any of those hippy dippy Coloradoans into his wedding. So that's enough for this show. We want to thank Todd. Thank you, Jon. And thank you, our viewers and watchers. Without you, we're just three guys in three states talking Husker football, and we'd still do it, but we appreciate that we have a few people watching and listening and throwing some feedback. So thank you all. And that'll do it for this episode of the 5 Heart Podcast, where we remind you each and every week that 5 Heart is all the heart you need. Jon?
Go Big Red!
Happy Teacher Appreciation Week.